This is Mark Roeber, fourth generation here on the Roeber Ranch, which is now Mount Lamborn Ranches. And the first generation came in 1889 and settled this, and they built up from there. And then we are on the sixth generation living here now, as you can see in the pictures.
Hi, I'm Chase Roeber, fifth generation here on Mount Lamborn Ranch. I'm going to read 3 short stories that my little brother Anthony wrote about the ranch and our federal grazing permit. The first is called Bringing the Land to Life. Water changed everything, but it wasn't by God's will or by rain. This land has long been forsaken by both. No, hands, shovel, and sheer will brought water and life to this land. A once barren landscape of sagebrush, juniper, and rock now flourishes emerald and violet with timothy and alfalfa hay. On cool April mornings, when fields look so alive, they breathe fresh air into your lungs. It's hard to imagine them as they may have been before our family arrived. On those mornings, a young boy, still oblivious to the world of water outside of Colorado, rain, lakes, and rivers large enough to put a boat in, imagines that this must be what Ireland looks like. He finds it impossible to imagine that this land once looked like the arid southwest he would find if he averted his gaze to the non-irrigated rangeland just beyond the fields. Red rocks, copper beige adobe mud, and ash green sagebrush lay over there. He'd rather not look. It's beautiful in its own way, but its disfigured, arid nature seems to suck the air out of him, desperate to take whatever life it can find. The mere thought of it dries his mouth. These fields, on the other hand, they are a breath of fresh air, giving him life rather than stealing it. The second story is written about our federal grazing permit, most of which sits within the West Elk wilderness. It's titled, In the Wilderness. Hidden amid 90,000 acres of national forest wilderness sits a cabin. Inside sit 2 young men, sipping their coffee in silence, flapjacks and eggs sitting between them, as they wait for the other 2 men to come back with the horses. 2 more young men step through the door onto the dusty cabin's cracked concrete floors, their boots and pants drenched. They kick off their boots next to the wood stove and change into a dry pair of Wranglers. Younger and greener at the trade, these 2 are responsible for wrangling the horses every morning, a task that typically involves dredging up steep hills carpeted in snowberry bushes, tall grass, and skunk cabbage, all of which is christened with fresh dew or the last night's heavy rain. The task is a jarring awakening each morning for the 2 young cowhands, and stark contrast to the warm, slow morning the older cowboys enjoy. Nevertheless, it is a beautiful way to start each day. Out here, with a chain of mountains separating them from the nearest civilization, and likely the nearest humans, they are in the wild. This terrain is often called wilderness, but seldom ever understood. Each of these young men know what it means. At nearly 10,000 feet in elevation, every morning is crisp and still. Electricity doesn't reach this cabin, not by miles. There is running water, but only on the years that the spring isn't dry, which isn't often as of late. There are no fences out here. The horses have a few miles of electric fence to keep them close enough to the cabin to retrieve. They wear bells around their necks so the young cowhands have the slightest hint as to where to scour the landscape each morning. But even the horses' existence out here is more akin to a tame herd of elk than to domesticated horses. The cattle, on the other hand, they operate under the illusion that they have free rein over these mountains. Their illusion is diminished, however, by the hard work of these 4 young cowboys. Each day they saddle their horses and ride for miles, gathering the cows and pushing them to better forage. Because these cowboys are horseback, putting some 20 to 30 miles on each day. They have a string of 4 or 5 horses. While a horse is ridden one day, then gets a few days off, these cowboys seldom get a day off during the summer months in the high country. The land and the cattle are too important for any respite. What the cowboy sacrifices in days off and wages, however, he makes up for in experience. The benefit of these long days, miles away from kith and kin, includes seeing the side of mountains only viewed by wild animals and humans wild enough to venture into them. Stumbling upon an elusive herd of elk silently grazing among a forest of quakies quivering in the summer breeze, drinking water directly from a fresh spring surrounded by wild mint, and seeing more black bear in a summer than most will see in their lifetime. They are intimately familiar with the smell of rain, leather, and a sweaty horse, the taste of dust, the sound of quiet, the bellow of a bull, and the meadowlark's morning song. These cowboys get to experience the companionship of a loving and loyal cow dog, a good horse, and brethren working towards a simple but common cause. Their days of silence and solitude grant them access to the innermost workings of their mind. The job graces them with humility, tenacity, humor, and an appreciation for the little things. The third story is titled Strategic Wilderness. Out here in the wilderness, these cowboys bring order and strategy, not to expunge the wild nature of land, but to enhance it. They implement land management strategies by grazing the cattle in a rotation system, with planned intervals of rest for each area grazed. The work they do is honest. What could be more natural than a cow grazing? These men are producing food using natural resources. The land thanks them for their responsible grazing each year by coming back healthier. Much like a lawn that has been mowed, this wilderness is healthier after it has been grazed. Grass produces excess tissue, and if that excess isn't removed, the plant stagnates and dies. Grazing livestock removes excess tissue, creating a healthier plant and healthier forest. There are only two natural ways to remove excess plant tissue from our national forests: grazing and fire. Grazing is far less destructive and far more yielding.
My husband's grandmother, Nanny, once told me they can't do it on their own. Hello, I'm Jamie Roeber, creator of this movie, wife, mother, cowgirl, artist, and educator. I am proud to be part of a beef-producing family that lives on a ranch on the western slope of Colorado.